Who's on your death watch right now, 2025?
Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, get me a Stellantis dartboard and blindfold me.
This week, automotive writer, former Top Gear America producer, and friend of the show, Derek Powell, stops by. Derek's an encyclopedia of arcane car knowledge, the kind that can only be gleaned through a childhood spent with your nose buried in old car and driver magazines. We talk 80s cars, go deep into Iacocca territory, and try to define what luxury will mean in the future automotive world. Derek and I are both GT4 owners, but somehow that never comes up. Rejoice Dan Pilling, who, by the way, is off moving, but will be back next week. Stay tuned. This is a fun one. It's That Car Show.
All right. Well, welcome back to That Car Show. Ryan and I are here tonight, and we are very lucky to have my good friend Derek Powell with us. Hi, Derek.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Thanks for
Hi.
having me.
Thanks for joining us. And as everyone in the car world knows, Derek Powell really needs no introduction. As Lynn Woodward said, everybody
Oh
knows
boy.
Derek Powell. But I
Indeed.
thought I would share a couple of sort of tidbits about your career and just sort of our friendship to kick things off. Derek and I met at Matt Farah's watch party at the beginning of last year, and we both promptly forgot each other until we met at Lynn's house again in the fall. And then we really got to know each other. We got to hang out at Aaron Robinson's house with Aaron and Tina and Lynn and a bunch of other friends. And like we've been fast friends ever since. Derek is a very talented writer. He's had a 20-year career in commercial television and features. He's been a producer on Top Gear America. He has worked on campaigns for Acura, Audi, BMW, Infiniti, Land Rover, and Ryan's favorite, Porsche. His writing has appeared in Auto Week, The Drive, Car and Driver, Jalopnik, Haggerty, and Motor Trend. And his documentary series, Coding the Car and Coding the Car 2, explore the future of software-defined vehicles through the collaboration of legacy car makers and tech companies around the world. But when he's not working, he's out at the racetrack, which we have talked about. He loves going off-roading and building demolition derby cars. But what really sets Derek apart for me is his authenticity. He's a very good friend, and his ability to find joy throughout the day, which for the two of us means we're finding Gremlins movie references and spotting Land Rovers, particularly Defenders and Sports, and then Broncos in the wild. Derek excels at honing in on what makes people smile and celebrating those things, which is just a very small part of what makes him such a gift to those who know him. So I'm thrilled to hang out with him tonight and share you with That Car Show audience. So thank you so much for joining us.
You are too kind. I'm glad this is audio only, or else you would see me Homer Simpson into the shrubs.
But alas, it's not audio only, Derek. I don't know if you know
Oh
that.
no.
Hate to tell you.
But only on Spotify, so
Right.
you're safe for
Okay.
most
All
folks.
right. Cool.
So
cool,
we
cool.
will ask our audience to give you a break. Don't watch the Spotify video this week.
Sometimes I forget to turn the video on, and it is.
Right. Right. We
I'm
may
glad I
get
wore
in.
pants for the podcast. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, you guys.
Well, you've been sitting down, so I'm not so sure. That was a hell of an intro.
Well, you know, he's a hell of a guy.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
Thank
the
you.
best intro ever.
When you put it that way, my imposter syndrome goes down just a tiny, tiny bit.
I only speak the truth, buddy. Come on. Yeah.
Same.
Stoked to have you with us. I know Ryan has a lot of questions, so I think, Ryan, why don't you kick it off?
I do, because I think you're living the dream, right? And I know a lot of hard work has gone, into it. But how'd you dip your toes into this thing? Like, what was your taproot moment for cars and then the industry, I guess?
Oh man, I mean, how far back do you want to go?
Go all the way back. I know we grew up with Car and Driver, and that probably had something to do with it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like Car and Driver was kind of like my mainstay from 10 years old. And just I made sure that my parents renewed it every year, and it followed me to high school. I went to boarding school and made sure that the mailing address was changed, and then to college. And then when I moved, every time I moved, that was like the first thing I'm going to change are the addresses for my car magazines. And
We can all
so
relate to those priorities.
yeah. And so like I guess the TLDR for the automotive portion of it is that I when I graduated from college, I applied to all the car magazines, and um, especially at that time in the late 90s before it went digital, it was a really tough nut to crack. And
Yeah.
I thought I had a leg up because I was the senior editor of the newspaper, and I had put together this like 4-page color cover letter of like all my car exploits. I had just done Bridgestone Winter Driving School the year prior, and so did a little
That's
article on
super
that.
cool.
And yeah, it I thought it was super cool. Nobody else did. So I got a round of no's, and after a brief stint in New York City, I moved to Los Angeles in '98 and just kind of fell into production.
Yeah.
I've always been an avid reader. There's this Dean Koontz book that I've always wanted to make into a movie. And when I got into production, I was like, oh, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. And I was surrounded by super smart people who had kind of like the same goals. And so I kind of worked my way up through commercial production through a variety of production companies on staff, and then I went freelance as a freelance writer, and I found myself writing for a lot of car directors, um, because when you're writing uh, when you're writing pitches, it's not just about you know how good it sounds. It's also about the knowledge that you have behind it. And so
Right.
because I've been obsessed with cars my whole life, it was kind of like, all right, this is natural. And so I could talk about the driving, I could talk about the styling, I could talk about the experience behind the wheel, and it just kind of it continued to grow. And along the way, I got my racing license, um, and and then one of my car directors bought Lindsay, you'll love this. Um,
I can't
One of my
wait.
car directors bought a Land Rover Series 2A.
Nice.
Actually, I'm going to call him out because I owe a lot to him, Sinway Xavier, and
Well
and
done. Well spotted.
also another just tremendously authentic person, just super great guy. And
We like to collect those.
yeah, we really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad, who's been in Pennsylvania for I don't know since 1967 when he moved there. He was always worried that it would come to Los Angeles and just kind of like crumble or do whatever people in Los Angeles do. And I said, well, the trick is to just surround yourself with good people.
Right.
And so that's been my mantra ever since. And so Sinway is one of those people, and I've known him for a million years as well. And this was back when Twitter was A, Twitter, and B, a fun place to hang out. And I
Good
had
old
also
days.
I had also collected a lot of car people on Twitter. It was a
Mm.
fun place to hang out. And I had tweeted a picture of the Land Rover Series 2A being towed behind my Audi Allroad, which I know you have plenty of questions about. Um, and and it was in response to Graham Kozak, who used to be at Auto Week. Graham Kozak's tweet about Land Rover Series 2As, and he wrote back and he's like, "Is that yours?" I said, "No, it's Simway Xavier's." And so Graham reached out to Simway and said, um, could you write a little piece in Auto Week about it? And um, Simway was like, "No, I I can take pictures, but I think Derek should write it." And so that was my first published piece back in 2015. And
Okay.
then yeah, there are a couple of other steps, but that was the first kind of like
Yeah.
legit piece in Auto Week, and just things just kind of blossomed from there.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
And the rest
amazing.
is history. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so emblematic of the car world. I mean, it's like how many things have unfolded because you happen to be standing physically in a certain spot
Hmm.
next to somebody, or you happen to get invited because your friend said, "Hey, we're doing this cool thing," and you meet somebody, and like your whole life takes a right turn in the best way. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah. And, and
I don't,
and you and I have talked about that, in person too, or
yeah,
over text, or the myriad ways in which we communicate.
yeah, How many
just
platforms can we have going at once?
it also, yeah, it's also about like you and I have discussed about a lot of the supportive people in this industry, and
Yeah, the people
you
that that have been our champions and resources, and it's like we couldn't be where we are without these people. And that's, I mean, that's one of the things I love about the car world. Like when somebody says to me, I have a lot of like girlfriends that'll say to me like, "Okay, like help me understand the car thing. I don't get it, but you're into it. It's like what's like obviously it's giving you something, like help me understand it." And I go, the cars are like the door opener, but immediately it becomes about the people. And, you were talking about like your dad's concern with coming to LA, and I think that's a fair concern, but I think what's so interesting is that the genuine people, at least especially in the car world, they show themselves pretty quickly. And so
yeah, they sure do.
you get to choose, who you're around. And I think the genuine, authentic people find each other pretty quickly too, because a lot of us were maybe the only car kid growing up, or we found our people later in the car world. And so it's like, hey, I recognize you. And then we're all happy to help each other. And you get to choose, the people you surround yourselves with are the rising tide lifts all boats. Like that's one of the things I love about Lynn is that she's very, like, hey, it only benefits all of us if we all succeed. And there's plenty for everybody. Like, let's go. We're going to do this.
Yeah, yeah, and that was just a very formative and transformative time for me in like
Yeah.
2015 to 2017. That was just kind of where everything just started to just coalesce and come together. It's like I could give you a blow by blow account of all of the opportunities and all of the people who have supported me along the way. But this is your show, and so
Maybe we'll do a Patreon episode for that.
yeah.
And then we'll go
But
to Brian. Yeah.
what is it about cars though? Like I don't think people who are into baseball have this same kind of like camaraderie, or there's just something about every friend of mine is a car person, right? And it wasn't
Right.
always like that, but there's just, to your point, it's just there's an immediate, you speak my language, and I know you're probably a pretty good person, right?
Right.
I,
Well, I
I
think
don't
it's
know,
like
it's special.
Bassam, like Bassam described it so well to me so concisely, where he said it sidesteps and shortcuts all of the small talk because you
Yeah.
have this major thing in common, and you just get into sort of like the meat of the friendship almost immediately. I mean, I think like Derek and I are a good example of that. Like we met once and forgot about it. We met again and didn't have a chance to like really talk because we were at a fun party, and that's how that goes. And then when we saw each other at the dinner party, we ended up sitting next to each other, and I think we talked for 3.5 hours straight.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I think we did.
To the exclusion of everyone else. So sorry.
Yes, sorry everyone.
It happens.
Um,
When you find your people, you recognize them pretty quickly.
I think too, it's like just to connect it to baseball. It is a shortcut, and I think that's a really apt description of it. But
Yeah.
it sidesteps all of the preamble, but you still
Mhm.
have to find your people because you're
Right.
not going to connect with everybody at a
No.
Dodgers game. Um, you're not going to connect with everybody at Air and Water.
Right.
You still have to
Yeah.
find those people.
Yeah.
It's like just because you both drive the same brand doesn't mean that you'll have much to talk about. It's like I go to the track and the last thing, honestly, I want to talk about are cars.
Mm.
I love those human connections, and so it's like, yeah, the cars are the catalyst, cars are the entryway, and then it's like, all right, now I'm in this room. Let's find that subset of that subset.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it sort of streamlines finding your people. And then on top of that, you also have this massive hobby in common, which only adds to the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean, like one of the things that we've laughed about, because I think it gives you common experiences that you don't have to explain. Like the
yeah,
rage that only car people can understand when you see a car in the wild and your phone malfunctions and you don't get a picture of it. We were talking about this the other
just like last
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
No, I don't know. What was the one? Because I was so proud of myself. I caught it was a Gen 1 Range Rover Sport in Vesuvius, which was one of the two colors you could
Oh
get,
yeah.
the turbocharged. Remember I sent you that picture, but I
Yeah, it's
thought I
it's
had
kind of
missed
like the
it. It's
this
like
cut
that.
that picture, yeah,
Ah,
and that
And the
color.
turbo, it was the supercharged engine, came in black or Vesuvius.
ah.
and the Vesuvius are very rare. They only made it, what, a couple years, Derek?
Uh, uh,
I mean,
you'll,
not to put you on the spot. Sorry.
I know, I know, I know. Well, the rover um, connection is rather new for me, so I'm still getting up to speed. Here's the other thing. It's like when I first met Jason Camisa, I did not know. Sorry, Jason, I did not know. Sorry, everybody that drives a BMW. I didn't know BMW platform name
Mm.
or
Right.
numbers or
Yeah.
letters. And so when he's talking about his E30 touring, I'm like, huh?
You're like,
Like
what
what?
does this mean?
Yeah, what is that? And so I grew up in Pennsylvania, and when somebody says G body, I immediately think of a 78 to 88 Monte Carlo
Uh,
or Grand National or something like that because that's a G body for me. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I had a lot of catching up to do in 2015 on once I started meeting people in the automotive journalist area because it was like going into commercial production where like I'm surrounded by these super smart people and they have a wealth of knowledge that I don't know and I've got my own subset but
Yeah.
I don't have their subset and so it's like okay there's still a lot to learn.
Yeah.
So, what is your subset?
Uh I think well a car and driver facts starting with January 1986
I bet
and
you still know
continuing
all
on.
those quarter mile times from that road test digest they had in the back, right? I mean,
It was, yeah, it was more it's more turns of phrase. It's more
okay.
how someone analyzes a car. I remember they had a retrospective on when they had the Buick by Opel
Uh,
in the late 60s, and Car and Driver hated it so much that they shot the photos in the junkyard. And I will never forget this phrase when they look back on it. And once Buick saw the article, they said Buick levitated with rage and canceled their advertising well into the 21st century.
that's
And
excellent.
I just love that. It's
Yeah,
just it's
yeah.
it's it's gleefully recounting, kind of like
Hmm.
the just the irreverent nature
Right.
that's at
Yep,
the heart of Car and
yep,
Driver
yep.
Oh
and
my God.
unapologetic too. They're like,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry.
There was a
Right. It
swagger,
is
but it
what
was
it
an
is.
intelligent swagger, right? And I just
Yeah,
always appreciated that.
Well, and you gotta love a good, like, genteel, very subtle insult of like, oh,
yeah,
bless your heart.
yeah. Love
Good
that for
for
you.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, so my subset I think is more American.
yeah.
My friend Sarah has a really great view of why certain cars gain value, and it's the cars that we've grown up with. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
for me, it's 80s cars, and so like when the Grand National started going up in price, I was like, yeah, okay. And so we only had a Chevy Olds dealership, and so the sound of a 2.5 liter Iron Duke or a 2.8 liter V6 is just like ingrained in my head.
Sure.
I could I could tell you all the trim levels, I could tell you all the
Mm.
colors, um, and so it's more just kind of just a overview of American cars um, as a whole, as opposed to like the specific 0 to 60 times, because nobody was um, proud of those
No.
in the 80s.
Well, that's
Look
what I was
over
going to
here. Yeah.
get at. I mean, if our 12 or 15-year-old selves could see like the performance of cars, what, 3 decades later or whatever, 4 decades later,
I was told there'd be no mask.
So
it's about as
more
far as
numbers
they
for
go.
you. More numbers for you, Lindsay. So I got to return to the scene of the crime. I got to write a piece for Auto Week
Mm.
before they went digital only, and it was about the Malaise days, the Malaise Motors car show that was held down in El Segundo. And the Malaise era is defined by the start of emissions controls all the way through the end of OBD1, so
Okay.
all the way
Ah,
to 1995, which
okay.
means that the Dodge Viper slides in under Malaise cars.
Oh, I think you
If
just made Ryan's entire month.
if you want to get technical. So when it came out, it had 400 horsepower, and the reviews at the time were like, "Holy cow, 400 horsepower! No car is ever going to have more than 400 horsepower, especially from a
Yeah.
V10." And cut to 2020, and the Lincoln Continental with a 3-liter turbo V6 made 400 horsepower. So, that
Yep.
time marches on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Sorry, Ryan.
No, I just it's amazing, and just the quality of cars too. It's just I look
When
back
you
at,
say quality, that's just a dictionary description, right? That's because
yeah,
there was no
yeah,
quality to be
yeah,
found.
yeah.
If you
What
go
is
back even further, sorry, to the
no?
70s, uh, Consumer Reports, which is notoriously hard on every product that it
Yeah.
tests,
Yeah.
in the 70s, they would have comparison tests of I remember one about full-size automobiles in American in like 73 or something like that, and they noted the defects. And it was done in a very, for me, uncharacteristic Consumer Reports way, because they're talking about stuff that like would fall off, or fluid that was leaking, new cars,
Yeah,
and they're like,
yeah,
well, this happened, it's a defect, but still, like, we'll give it a good score. And you think
Interesting.
that
wow,
that was the level of expected quality back
yeah.
then.
The bar is on the floor, kids.
Really, truly, So
Add it
you
to the
grew
list.
up with American stuff. I mean, that's what your parents were driving. They were
Yeah,
Oldsmobiles, and
well, yes.
yeah.
My mother had a 67 GTO. That was her first
Oh,
car. That was her
Amazing.
first new car. She got it when she got her teaching job at the university in Pennsylvania, and drove it from Kansas to Pennsylvania, and drove it until it rusted out, which in Pennsylvania was like the next year.
Yeah.
Um, and my dad had he first had a Datsun 240Z, and
hmm.
that's the car I
Well,
came
that's
home in.
right. We talked about that
Yeah,
because my
yeah.
parents had one of those when I was young too.
It's fun to kind of like
Right.
revisit that.
Yeah,
And then he got a 260Z, and that was kind of like the extent of the imports. And then you know mom transitioned into a Cutlass Sierra,
oh yeah.
and my dad got a Buick Century wagon. Um,
Same
Yep.
thing,
and
right?
well, the Century was a G-body.
Oh, okay.
It was rear-wheel drive, but unlike the Grand National, it made 95 horsepower.
Ooh.
You could not spin the tires on gravel. And my mom's Cutlass Sierra, the first one, the 84, uh, it was such a lemon that even back in Pennsylvania before lemon laws,
Right.
the dealership was like, "Bring it back. We're
Yeah.
so sorry. We are so sorry."
Hey, Les, we'll
And
just take it off your hands.
and then, because it's a small town, someone else bought that Cutlass Sierra, and
Ooh.
more often than not, I would see it on the lift in the
Oh,
garage in town,
No.
and it was only like 2 years old.
oh, jeez.
So then my mom got another Cutlass Sierra for some reason. But it was sharp. It was a 1986. It was two-tone, so it was like silver over charcoal. It
Oh,
had the Blatty 2.8 liter V6 and what constituted a banging stereo system at the time. GM just like dialed in the bass, and you're like,
Oh
"Ooh,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
this
yeah.
is
like
impressive." Just
You
like the
guys remember the
125
movie?
horsepower.
You guys remember the movie Gung Ho, right?
Oh
yeah.
With
yeah,
Batman, right?
it
Like,
was Batman.
but
Gung Ho featuring Batman.
I feel like that was kind of like half a documentary of like what the American automotive industry was like, right?
Yeah.
At that era.
It may have
I don't know
been.
about the ribbons of shame and all that, but like it was, that was. I can only imagine, the love and care that went into the construction of those things, right?
And by love and care, you're placing it under the same bucket of quality, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm curious to see your dictionary and how these definitions, like if there are pictures next to them.
That's my dictionary. It's illustrated, right?
It's illustrated, yeah.
You just point, right? Yeah.
But it's amazing, like we ever made it anywhere. right? We took
Yeah.
these cars cross country, right? We used to have things like vapor lock in our brand new
Yeah.
Chrysler minivans, and what?
Vapor lock and with bias ply tires, you would get so many flats.
Yeah.
And what's even more amazing is that the speed limit was 55. So it's not like you were taxing these cars in any way. It was kind of like you're at idle.
Compared to today, right?
Yeah, compared to today, where it's like you can sustain, I don't know, 100 miles an hour, 120 for hours on end.
Yeah.
On a close course. Do not attempt if you're not a professional driver.
Close course.
Right.
Close course.
Right.
Yeah.
But I cut you off. So you were Cutlass Sierras and things like this, and then
Yeah. Lindsay and I also bonded because my dad had an 83 Ford F-150 with the 300 straight six and a 4-speed manual, and that's what I learned to drive stick on.
Okay.
Right.
And Lindsay,
and I learned to drive regular in an 85 Ford Bronco, which was the same era, effectively very similar vehicle. So, it's a great start, right? Because look at us now.
Yeah. And Ryan, did you know that Lindsay loves Broncos?
She especially likes the Raptors.
Where do I look?
Oh,
we just got called out by.
I did see that comment. Yes,
right.
I did see that comment today. You know what?
I thought Raptors were supposed to be fast. Sorry.
Right.
Quick, rather.
That's in the dictionary too. But it's all subjective. It's all subjective. It's like getting into my mom's V6 Cutlass Sierra when, which had 125 horsepower.
Yeah.
It was fuel injected. It was lighter than the lethargic Buick. And so for me, that was performance. That was performance in 1986. Yep. And so when the Raptor first came out, it's like, what else was there in the landscape that had those capabilities and those qualities? Yeah. And that was the Triton V8. Was that the 6.2? Or
I think so.
I believe
that first
so.
gen, yeah.
Naturally aspirated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, compared to the EcoBoost, it's not as powerful and not as quick. But it's not going to overheat as quickly.
True.
Right. It's a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is. It's a subjective observation, and much like Consumer Reports, kind of like, oh yeah, these have defects. It's kind of like the Raptor at the time. It's like, holy cow, like this is a new segment. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. Right. It's like, look at what an accomplishment this is. Like, look at what a feat this is. Mm-hmm. And I think like you make a good point, Derek. Like coming from the Ford trucks that you and I grew up with.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no comparison. Even I have a 2011 F-150, and I mean, it has colored lights inside. Like if you had told me when I was inside my 85 Bronco that trucks would one day have 7 different colors of lights and heated seats and air conditioned seats, I would have said you were nuts. Like it's a truck. But here we are, and I'm not complaining. And I like the pink light, just so we're clear.
What? This is also brand new information.
This is brand new information.
I didn't send you a magenta car earlier today.
You definitely did not. But that's what I love about the car world too. You find your people, but also, and like you were saying, you and Ryan were both saying, we bring our own sort of references and we broaden each other's horizons, like the people that you get to know. Like poor Paul Kramer at Auto Kennel, he now sees pink cars everywhere because of me. Poor Derek now sees pink cars everywhere because of me.
And sharks.
And sharks.
And pink sharks.
Pink sharks. It's
where's the line, Lindsay?
We haven't found it yet. We're going to get there. Yeah. But, we all and my friend Lara, she sees Broncos because of me. Derek sees Broncos because of me, but Derek was already seeing vintage Ford trucks. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I was.
Right. It's good. I love it. So, yeah.
Well,
so here
we've totally thrown you off, Ryan. I'm so sorry.
No. But I do want to bring this back to sort of like 80s, early 90s now, because when the Typhoon and I guess the Cyclone first came out.
Oh God, yes.
Do you remember how mind blowing that thing was? Because we went from these 130 horsepower full size Fords or whatever to these amazing.
Well, that's like a
things.
pre-Raptor almost. Like it's in the same thread kind of.
It's more of. So when the Grand National kind of reached peak
Mm.
performance, you had this incredible powertrain
Yep.
saddled to this ancient platform. And so Buick actually limited the top speed of the Grand National to 124 miles per hour because any faster and it would just detonate. It would just
Tracks.
the
Yeah.
engine wouldn't detonate, just the car would
The body would just,
just
Yeah.
yeah,
turn into particles.
Yeah.
right.
And so the engine found a better home in the 20th anniversary Trans Am 2 years later, but that platform was still like what 7 years old at that point. And so not that the S10 platform was any better, but it had an all-wheel drive system. And I think GMC kind of looked at Buick and was like, "Hey, we want to turbocharge a V6 too." So they took the Vortec V6, which was basically just kind of like a 5-liter V8 with two of the cylinders cut off. Um, but that V6, unlike Buick's naturally aspirated V6 in the early 80s, Chevy had paid attention to it, and so it was already fuel injected. They had already kind of upgraded the internals, and so it was in a good spot to be boosted, and putting it in the Cyclone was kind of like, wait,
Yeah.
what just happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what just happened? Because that all-wheel
Yeah.
drive powertrain just like put all of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
performance
Yeah.
to the pavement, and it was just the 0 to 60 time was in the fours.
Yeah.
And that
I mean,
what else did that in
nothing.
1991 or whenever it came out?
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
to
You'd
have
look
it
at
in
that road
that
test
body.
digest and it would jump out, it was
It
nothing.
would
Because a
literally jump
Corvette
out
was,
of the digest,
I mean, a
smash
Corvette
you in the
was maybe
face.
a 6-second car to 60 back then, right? I mean, it wasn't that. And shout out to our friends at Blue Chip here in Denver. They have in their collection currently a teal Typhoon
Oh,
that is
yes.
That's
like, I
so
don't know,
of
like
the
got 200
time.
miles on it or something. And the owner also owns a Cyclone, 1 mile Cyclone. But to see one that pristine, right, and then that color, like peak,
Yeah.
I was gonna
Typhoon,
like that's so of the era, like
and like,
teal. Just
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Teal.
moment for teal.
teal, with like pink graphics on the side, and like 15-inch wheels, and the whole thing is tiny, right? Like the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
thing looks like a little sports car now compared to anything else. And what an embodiment of that that age. Just that I want one. I want
It's
one. I want
it
that
was
car.
it was that era where like turbocharging solved
Yeah.
so many problems. And
Yeah.
it's different from, well, okay, so 1992, you had like just an onslaught of like planet stomping turbocharged
Mm.
cars. You had the Audi S4, which was 227 horsepower, 5-cylinder, just awesome goodness,
Yeah.
get it with the
Yeah.
stick shift. You had the Cyclone and the Typhoon, and you had the Dodge Spirit RT Turbo, which
That's right.
had 224 horsepower. Oh, yeah, 224 horsepower, 5-speed manual, Lotus 16 valve head on
Yeah.
the Chrysler block, and that thing just like stomped everything else.
Yeah.
It's like it's
Yeah.
it's keeping up at least in a straight line with this $54,000 Audi S4,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're like, yeah, but I've got this. I don't know. I don't know the price of
Yeah.
the Spirit RT Turbo off the top of my head, but I believe it was less than $20,000.
Yeah. I'm sure it was less than
And
20,000.
it was keeping up with an Audi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These were the Iacocca years, right? Still, was he gone by then?
I think he was on his way out if he had not fully stepped down.
Maybe he had
he
stepped down from CEO, but he was still chairman of the board or something.
Okay.
He was
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
but not in the same capacity.
Yeah, yeah. He founded a electric bike company about 10 years after that.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, in the late 90s. I had just moved to Los Angeles. I was working at the Beverly Center at Banana Republic, and one of the other associates there was actually working for Lee
Wow.
at his electric bike kind of startup I don't
Yeah.
know if startup was even a word in
No.
the
Yeah.
90s. And so I gave her my copy, my hard copy of Iacocca, which I had read cover to cover in the back of my mom's Cutlass Sierra going on a road trip to New York for camp.
Nice.
Emerged a complete Mopar diehard fan. And I mean, because you can say K car and Mopar in the same
Mhm.
sentence.
Yeah.
And
We'll
and
allow
so
it.
like yeah, but it's like that 10-year span, give or take. He got there in the late 70s. K car came out in 81, and the final Aries rolled off the line
Mm.
in 89. So that's kind of like the Iacocca years.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, they
interesting.
even put a turbo in the LeBaron of the era. I remember
Dude,
that was an upgrade.
they put a turbo in anything. Like
It-
if yeah, they put okay, so here's
Now it's
another
about to
dumb
get
fun
good.
fact. Yeah, seriously. Like you have your dictionary, I just have this stupid like
I like it though.
fun
Yeah, I'm
facts.
impressed.
We all
Um,
have our stuff.
so one thing Chrysler didn't have was a V6. They had the slant six, and that had powered Chryslers for
Yeah.
decades. Um, but it wasn't going to fit in a front wheel drive car. It was too old. It was too heavy. Just it was just too everything except powerful. And so they developed the 2.2 liter and the 2.5 liter, and that's kind of what sustained every single car that was
Yeah.
front wheel drive for the longest time. But as Chrysler started to grow up and realize, we have to have more than four cylinders, they started to make a V6, and they were behind on development in the late 80s. But the new minivans had come out the first minivan came out in 84.
Mhm.
They facelifted it and put a V6 in 87.
Right.
But because their V6 was behind, they sourced a V6 from Mitsubishi, 141 horsepower, 3-liter V6. And you always know when it has the Mitsubishi V6 because if you see any of those cars and it puffs out a plume of blue smoke, it's like, yeah, that's the Mitsubishi V6.
Didn't
So
need the
that's what
fender
went
badge.
in. That's what went in the Caravan.
So when the Caravan, the Voyager,
Oh yeah.
Dynasty, New Yorker, I'll stop. But um,
Please don't.
Mitsubishi could not supply enough V6s to
Like
to
meet the
to
demand.
to supply, the New Yorker that came out, the Dynasty that came out, the minivans that were selling like minivans, and and so for 2 years, 1989, 1990, Chrysler dropped its 2.5-liter turbocharged four-cylinder into the minivans,
Yeah.
in the short wheelbase minivans. And
Get
you could get it
out.
in the SE, the wood-grained LE, or on the Plymouth side, the LX, and on the Dodge side, the ES, the performance ones. And you can
Yep.
tell those because they have a twin tailpipe coming out from the right
Okay.
side.
Okay.
Um, it
Was
made
there a
like
manual
100.
available in that turbo as well, or am I
Yes,
imagining? Okay.
yes. No, so it produced 150 horsepower, which was more than the V6.
Okay.
But these engines were also notoriously understressed, and so I mean, you can go on YouTube and just type in turbo minivan, and you'll see these things lay down quarter mile times in almost single digits.
No
Um,
kidding.
but to answer your question, yes. Uh, Over the course of 2 years, Chrysler produced for the Dodge and Plymouth variants 500 minivans in each model year with a stick shift. So you
500.
could
Wow.
get, not in the LE because wood grain, because
It doesn't. Yeah.
who's going to drive stick in a wood grain vehicle? Um, but you could get a stick in that, and to
Easy.
find one of those is unobtainium. That would be
I
awesome.
bet.
Yeah.
Bet.
So Derek, have you ever driven one of the manuals, like in your life?
I've never driven a turbo manual.
Oh, okay.
I have driven one manual Caravan, and that was the third generation that went from 91 to 95. Also, um, fellow car person Alex Lenz has one.
He does?
He has a manual. It's the naturally aspirated
Okay.
2.5 liter.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and yeah,
Nice,
So I
nice
would
choice,
love to
Alex.
drive that as well. Yeah.
Bravo. I know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, should we put it out to like if anyone has a turbo manual minivan
If
that they would
anyone
like us
has
to
a
experience?
turbo manual unmodified
Yeah.
minivan,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
those went straight to the drag strip. Like, why wouldn't you? And
That's
of
crazy.
course, the
With
drag
their
strip is
kids in the
better,
back.
obviously, with an automatic. And that
Yeah.
automatic was also the Chrysler 3-speed was
It's a
just
3-speed.
nearly indestructible. And
Yeah.
so when you're putting 15 pounds of boost through there, it's like, okay, here's
Yeah.
second, here's
Yeah.
third.
Yeah.
All right, what else do you want?
Yeah.
You can't have headrests, but you can have a turbo and a manual, right?
Yeah.
That's,
Well,
I mean, you got to pick and choose, I
yeah,
guess.
pick one.
yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What do you want?
Those were just such, I don't know, important cars to so many of us, right? I mean, that's just
Yeah.
what our memories are made of, right? Those things. And we had two. We had an early one, I think, in '85, and then we had a facelift one. Both were the 4 cylinders, both were the automatics, and neither one had a
Woof.
cassette deck. I think
Ugh.
they were SEs, maybe the sporty ones,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not the.
Yeah. The SE. God, I'm just nerding out again. The SE was it was base SE and LE.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
so, but yeah, the
No.
SE. And at the time, it's like air conditioning was still optional.
Yeah,
And
Oh,
yeah.
and like rear air was not, it was like revolutionary. I
it's
And
mean,
you
like,
couldn't even roll the damn windows down, so you were really
yeah,
toasty back
right.
then. Yeah, that's
Well, and
yeah,
I mean, it's so funny to look back on like knowing what you know now, and especially being like fully baked car people as we are, just like we are who we are. And my family came so close to buying one of the extended, it was probably a second gen because it wasn't the
yeah.
first, and it was slightly,
The
smoother or
facelift,
whatever.
second gen,
yeah,
whatever you want
yeah.
to call it.
Yeah, yeah, the facelift one. It was ice blue with navy,
Mm.
pinstripe extended. And we were so excited because there were 3 kids, and we were like, we're going to be able to get to the back seat easily, and this is
Yeah.
going to be amazing. And instead, my parents bought an Oldsmobile Custom Cruiser station wagon.
Oh, in retrospect,
Well,
But
you
you know
just made
what?
Johnny Lieberman very happy
I know, I
because,
told Johnny, I'm like, we had the same car. It was just colored.
yeah,
I think mine was all
yes,
gray, his was all brown.
yep,
But, so I learned to drive in the Custom Cruiser and the '85 Bronco, and I have never met anything that I was intimidated to drive because they were both enormous
yeah.
in
yeah,
different ways. I learned to parallel park in the Bronco. I'm like, were we very disappointed that we didn't get the minivan? Yes. Are
yeah.
we glad now that we didn't get the minivan? Yes.
But then you
But
had
I
a real
wanted my
bougie
mom.
family. Oh, go ahead,
I
sir.
wanted my mom to get the Sentra XE Coupe
Ooh,
Ooh.
instead of so it wasn't like just the square Sentra. It was like the XE Coupe. It was sporty, and I wanted her to get either that or the Pulsar NX with
I was
the
just
Ooh.
configurable,
with
right?
the top or the back end that you could take off.
And she comes home with the Cutlass Sierra again.
Oh,
It's
Ah.
kind of like, yeah,
Like,
it's like, oh, I know this polonium gave me like all my hair fell out, so I returned it, but I came back with uranium, which is different. It's the same but different.
the gal at the
It's
store said, this one's better.
it's two-tone. Yeah,
yeah,
this one won't break.
Oh,
I love it.
I
I
know.
love it.
I know.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Are we on
Well,
question number 2, Ryan?
yeah. Let's bring this to current day, and we're talking
Might be
about
1.5. Right?
some of these cars, some of these brands don't exist. Who's on your death watch right now, 2025?
Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, get me a Stellantis dartboard and blindfold me.
Yeah, Lee Iacocca, where are you? All right.
Right.
I mean,
Speaking of, yeah.
Here's the thing. It's like, I take a look at Jeep. That has been the crown jewel of
yeah.
any manufacturer that has owned Jeep or has acquired another car company is because of Jeep.
Mhm.
And Renault probably jumped into bed with AMC not because of like the Concorde or the Spirit or the Gremlin or the
No.
Pacer. It was like, oh,
Come
what's
on, the
this thing?
Gremlin?
What's this thing here? And I mean, if you haven't seen Jason Camisa's piece on the XJ, it's
Mm.
phenomenal, and it talks about the collaboration of or the influence that Renault had on the XJ, and but as we know, the XJ kind of transformed the sport utility world, and And then once the Grand Cherokee was introduced, it was just kind of like, okay, even before that, like Chrysler was like, all right, we're gonna buy Lamborghini. We're gonna do this stupid, mashup. Sorry, Ryan, we're back in the 80s.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this stupid mashup with
We live
Maserati.
here now.
And
It's okay.
and we're also gonna buy AMC because of Jeep.
Yeah.
And then maybe the merger of equals was because of Jeep. And the following Grand Cherokee in the 2000s had a lot of ML parts underneath. And so, but now it's like Jeep is not the crown jewel.
Yeah.
It's been struggling in sales.
Yeah.
That's not to say that it's on the chopping block. I don't think it's be on the chopping block, but it's no longer the crown jewel when so many other brands have caught up to just kind of doing something comparable.
Yeah.
That's part of a larger, just analysis because it's like
Yeah.
to go back to the S4 90s, to go back to the S4, it's like Audi used to differentiate itself by having turbocharged all-wheel drive cars.
Mm-hmm.
And now every German is turbocharged and all-wheel drive. So where's the differentiation?
Yeah.
So if it comes to the chopping block, it's like, yeah, I think something in the Stellantis portfolio.
Yeah.
What Fiat has a car?
Yeah.
And they're free.
Well,
Yeah,
and doesn't Chrysler, they just have the Pacifica right now?
they just have the
Yeah, that's a
Pacifica.
weird one
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Um,
when you end up with a mark that has literally one vehicle,
yeah,
it's not and then when you have several marks that have one vehicle, like
it's
that's
like
not
an airport
not
with just one flight.
Yeah. Yeah.
like, why are we keeping this
Yeah.
up?
They exist, but not for long. Right?
Yeah. And so it's a question too of, and this is beyond my pay grade of like, what does it take to keep the lights on for a brand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Is
and
it,
how much, like, if they're under the umbrella, the Stellantis umbrella, how much
mhm.
are the other brands like keeping the Pacifica alive? For example, it's like how much is the overall picture playing into like, yeah, we'll keep the lights on with this one model
Yeah.
and just see how it goes. Because you think if
There's
it was a standalone,
Yeah.
would it be sustainable?
there's something to be said about for economies of scale, and there's a reason that this weirdly named acronym is this brand juggernaut. Um, but if we take a look, sorry Ryan, at the 90s, um, when Ford went on a shopping spree
Mm.
and
Oh
picked
yeah,
up Aston Martin and
Yeah.
Jaguar
Jaguar Land
and
Rover. Yeah,
Land Rover and Volvo
Yeah.
and was like, oh, we're going to make a premier automotive group.
yeah, PAG. Yeah,
And so they didn't have resources to properly support any of
Yeah.
those brands. And so you had Jag's platform sharing with Lincoln's and the Ford Taurus and the Volvo sharing a platform. And then, the most egregious but awesome thing is a Ford Crown Vic steering wheel and an Aston Martin.
what's not to love? Come on.
Oh
What's
yeah.
not to love? And so I think it flash forward to the present, sorry. Oh, I mean, you're welcome. Flash forward to the present, it's the same thing. It's like you've got all these mergers and acquisitions, and you have to, in order to Lindsay's point, stay on the radar because bespoke brands just cannot do it. I mean, bless be to the VCs who are like, yeah, let's pick up Aston Martin. What could go wrong?
Right. We
Or
don't
the
have any
Chinese.
data in the past. This is going to be totally fine.
Yeah, or the Chinese, or for Geely saying, oh, we had such luck with Volvo. Let's pick up Lotus
Yeah.
and
Lotus.
achieve this I know, and achieve the same effect.
Right.
So on one hand, those brands would probably not exist, like Lotus and Aston Martin, and maybe Jaguar would not exist
Yeah.
were it not for these giant companies.
Right.
But if you cannot fully support the brands that you have, then there's no differentiation between them.
Yeah, you're right. They end up, it's it's a little bit it's different from what people, but when they talk about Porsche, like smaller and smaller slices of the same size pie,
Hmm.
you end up having like they share more and more. Yeah, like what are you getting? There's no differentiation. It doesn't help. And then like what's the appeal?
Yeah. The
It's
cars at
it's
least better look good, right?
I recently was on the first drive of the Bentley Flying Spur Hybrid,
Mm,
Mm,
and it shares a lot of DNA underneath with the Porsche,
yeah,
um, the Porsche Panamera Turbo SE Hybrid. I hope I'm saying that right.
I think so. Yeah.
that's a
Sorry,
long
Porsche.
title.
We'll get
Yeah.
corrected
Right?
if not. But yeah.
Yeah, or the Jaguar Land Rover Defender. I don't know.
Right.
So, um, and there are a lot of places in which it does feel very Bentley and very unique. I did not say very unique. Please delete that. Um, it feels special, but then you open the door and you're greeted by the same chime that you're going to hear in an Audi A3.
Mm,
You've got an infotainment system that you will find in A6 with Gilson's fonts, because that's very British. Um, and so it's kind of like, where do you find those areas where you can manage costs, but you can still deliver a unique experience where the
Right.
customer will spend $300,000 as opposed to the Porsche, which is, you know,
Not
230, I
yeah,
think.
not that.
Yeah, not that.
Yeah,
Um,
because as the customer, how do you justify that to yourself if it's in a lot of ways the same car as you've lost the exclusivity of like, well, you can only get this if you're in this
mm.
realm unless you get this other thing over here which is kind of the same or has a lot of the
yeah,
same elements.
yeah. So I think we are in that bubble of being able to speak to this and
Mhm.
articulate it in an informed fashion. But we're also canaries in the coal mine,
Yeah.
kind of seeing this happen
Yeah.
and thinking, okay, what's the spring effect? When is that going to catch up with the public? When or will they care? Will they
Mhm.
care that their Urus is an RSQ8? Like if
Yeah.
you open the spare tire cover and see a bunch of Audi branded wiring,
Yeah.
or
Right.
um, will they care? Or is it
Yeah.
image? Is it
Yeah,
is it
it's
the
literally for the name.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I think
Well,
you're right, it's sort of a psychological exercise of like it it's going to play out and show how strong the brands are they can sustain on basically on the name only as the cars get more
yeah,
similar.
that's
The strength of the brand is going to sustain them beyond because people are going to go, well, but it's still a Bentley or it's still
yeah.
this, it still has the
right.
cafe. How long does that last before people start to catch on and go like, okay, but it's really just an Audi or it's really this,
Well,
you know?
if I may, like again, sort of the evolution of what is luxury, right?
Yeah.
Over
Yeah,
the decades, right? And probably most recently, it equaled technology, right? Well, now everyone's got the tech. Where do we go from here? Do we go back to like a Mercedes, W124, where it's just the vault like feeling, or I mean, like what's next? What is luxury? 10 years from now?
we go back to a clean slate, right,
Hmm.
Mm.
Lindsay?
Right. Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah.
you've already talked about the slate reveal on
Well,
a
I
previous
did, but
episode.
A
I
little
would
bit.
love to
Yeah.
hear because you knew about it for so much longer than
Mhm.
I did. Like
Yeah,
you have a
I'm
much
sorry I couldn't tell you.
no. Are you kidding? I mean, I was laughing about
Hey,
that and I'm like, that's how you know you found your people where you both finally go like, I couldn't tell you.
and then
Yeah,
Lindsay didn't tell us, so
And
it's
I
it's
didn't,
good.
right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
she's no angel. Yeah,
or no, or I am absolutely an angel because I didn't tell anyone.
true, true.
I think so. Look, Slate is not a luxurious vehicle in any way.
Mm.
But what the brilliance of Slate for me is that for so long the the car companies have kind of like developing technology, developing features to try to set them apart, to try to get you to buy the next year. I mean, it used to be styling changes. It used to be
Yeah,
like 60s and 70s. They would change the look of the car every year. Now you can do that through technology. You can upgrade a car just with a over-the-air update.
Right.
Um, and and Slate's viewpoint is kind of like so many people don't need or want those features.
Mm.
Mm.
And so I don't think it's a novelty. I don't think that they're doing crank windows because they want to be anti or
Retro.
they want to
Yeah.
be punk. Yeah, it's form and function at that perfect intersection.
Yeah.
But I don't bring that up to kind of pivot. I feel like there could also be back to basics for luxury as well.
Hmm.
Um, because there some of the luxury brands, just even in fashion, and there are fewer and far further between, um, because everything is just so on a fast track now. But there are still those established brands that feel that less is more and don't need to dazzle you
Hmm.
or put a lot of expensive, heavy, cumbersome, unreliable tech
Yeah.
into the cars. Um, even as journalists, we'll get into cars and we'll be like, okay, how do we wait? Why is there an augmented reality
Mm.
screen on this M5? Like, why do I need to see what I'm seeing? Like,
Right. Like in a
what what
car.
what's going on here? Yeah. Um, even as journalists, like we get into cars and we're like, okay, it's going to take us a second to kind of like
Mhm.
absorb all of this. And, especially when we're in and out of cars on a regular basis, there's no kind of like simple tactile muscle
Yeah.
memory thing that can just kind of
Yeah.
literally seat you. Um, and so for luxury, it's like, what does that look like in 10 years? It depends on, back to your dictionary, what your definition of luxury is. Is it going to be um, a space that you just have serenity, that you have
Mhm.
just
Or like
let, let's take away
simplicity.
let's take away all the technology. Let's take away ADAS. Let's take away any autonomy or the future that we've been promised and why. I don't know. I want to drive my car
Yeah.
and just kind of like look at luxury for luxury's sake. I think the first question you have to ask yourself is what's luxurious to you?
Mhm.
Um, what do you feel proud about when you get in a car? It's like, is it that sense of solidity or is it the just the smell of the leather seats or the interior? Is it the way that you have a commanding view of the road in front of you? Or for me, is it a climate control system that can actually keep a consistent temperature? Um, it all depends on. It's not just luxury for feature's sake, but luxury for an
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
in a
Well, and it's
memory.
kind of it's like what fits your life and enhances your experience in the car. That's
Yeah,
going to be a different definition for everybody,
Yeah.
and yeah, like you bring up a really good point because like to me, my truck is luxurious, and I know that's not the definition of luxury to a lot
you
of
have
people,
pink lights. Of course, your truck is luxurious.
right? I mean, come
Yeah,
on. But yeah, it's like you said, like it's dependable, it's unbelievably comfortable,
Hmm.
and it has allowed me to do so many things in my life. Like it fits exactly what I need.
Yeah.
And, like what more could you want? Really? So there's your Ford ad.
also, Ryan, I realized I didn't answer your
No,
question
no.
with a solid answer. It was more of a pontification, more of a philosophical
That's okay.
question. But
That's why we're here.
yeah,
It, yeah, it is interesting. I think there's something about simplicity, right? I mean, I think trends are often in response to world events and all that. In an increasingly
hmm
complicated world, we want simplicity. We want calm, right? We want that. Whatever Infinity is doing is not what I'm looking for in luxury. Um,
Okay, so noted. All right, I
Right.
I saw this QX50. I thought it was perfect for you. Um,
You may have to
but
pivot just
70 or
slightly.
nothing, or what is it? What's the big one? Yeah.
I'll keep looking for you. Yeah.
Yeah. They still have V8s, those big SUVs, the big Infinities. They did a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, the
It's,
QX80.
man, I remember
Um,
driving one thinking that was a throwback. It was like driving an old station wagon or something. It had
I
that vibe.
I we had an episode, Top Gear episode up in Montana, and um, we on our off day, a couple of us drove to Yellowstone Um, and it's beautiful, beautiful sweeping 2-lane roads on the way
Yeah.
from Butte to Yellowstone, and we're in this QX80.
I mean, that sounds like
We got there. We got that.
Well, that's a good segue to talk about Top Gear a little bit. I know we don't have a ton of
Sure.
time left, so would love to hear
I
about some of
I
your.
I, I can push my dinner, whatever you need.
Oh, well, okay,
So
all
yeah.
right. We'd love to
fantastic.
hear about some of your favorite experiences and places you went. Just yeah, I mean that. What when you think of those years, what comes to mind?
So saving my bacon because I got hired on Top Gear America mere days before the world shut down in 2020.
Uh,
And BBC was so generous to keep everybody on for that
mm,
production,
Oh, wow.
because
yeah,
nobody knew what was
Right.
going to
yeah,
happen. And
Well, and that's even more remarkable given how stringent England was. So to have them
yeah,
as the parent company, like
and
that's
you
so
had
interesting.
you had three parents, really. You had BBC, you had Discovery, and you had Motor
yeah,
Trend.
Yeah.
And for all of those conglomerates to kind of agree and keep that momentum going was such a boon, for everybody involved. And so that also kind of united us from the start because we were in the
Yeah.
trenches in this just, I hate this term because it's so connected, but this unprecedented
yeah,
time
Right.
because nobody had the answer. Nobody had been through this
right.
before. And we were actually one of the first ones out of the gate. Started shooting in July of that same year, and just really hit the ground running. And what was unique about that first that first season is that we couldn't travel. We could not get on a plane, um, and so we had to drive everywhere. And that
Oh,
meant being very creative in our stories and our locations because we wanted to make it look different. It couldn't be all Los Angeles based.
right.
Um, so our 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 zone was about 500 miles, and we got to go north, all the way to Thunderhill, which is one of my favorite
Mm.
tracks. Um,
I can cross that question off my list then.
yeah, and yeah, we haven't even gotten to your questions yet.
I know.
Sorry.
No, we're good.
And so that first year was just such phenomenal bonding because it was kind of like how can we make this a season, um, at a time when everything is shut down. We
Yeah.
season 1 and 2, we wore masks every single day of shooting, even when we were outside, even when we were in the desert, even
Right.
after we started getting vaccinated, because we were so stringent on making sure that we complied because we had a show to deliver, and if anyone had gotten sick,
Yeah,
and nobody did, if anyone had gotten sick, it would have just completely, thrown everything off.
That's an
Um,
incredible record because you think about all the productions that we heard about getting shut down for 2 weeks or forever because,
yeah,
or however long, or the chain, like you said, like one person gets sick and then it can set off a chain and production's shut down maybe for the rest of, the project or whatever. That's an
yeah.
incredible record.
Um, and my first day on set was I had flown to Austin, Texas, and then driven out to Buda, Texas, to work on an episode. And I don't, I don't think I knew anybody on set. Didn't know anyone. I knew Jethro. I knew Jethro from Motor Trend,
Okay.
um, but I didn't know anybody on crew. And I walk into the Fairfield Inn and Suites or wherever we were staying, and one of the producers, David Silverman, comes up to me and goes, "Hey, you have a Defender shirt. My brother has a Defender. Cool shirt." And that was like
nice.
I was in. It
Off
was
and
just
running.
off and running, and everyone, uh, everyone that I worked with in those trenches was just so amazing, so amazing. You met Sean Winograd at the Slate
Yes.
reveal.
Oh, was he on that project with you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't
We were
know.
kind of like the four musketeers. It was David Silverman, Sean Winograd, Joe Barry, and myself, and we just
Oh, okay.
we had our own table, at Thanksgiving. It was the kids' table.
That's amazing.
Place to be.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like, we're still on a group text to this day. We all went to Joe's wedding in Italy. It's kind of like, it just we forged so many great relationships. And Francesca DeLutis, who's the production manager on Top Gear, was my producer on the first Coding the Car.
Yeah.
And it was such a magical place to not only kind of like share this trauma of a worldwide pandemic, but also kind of like work on something that we all could speak that shorthand.
Yeah.
So that was one of the most memorable things. You know, the cars that we had, the stories that we could tell in, every episode was shot in 2 days. We had an additional day for beauties for the cars, but yeah, the stories were shot in 2 days, and so
Wow.
we had a lot of obstacles to overcome, and we managed to do it, and we could not have done it if we hadn't all been working together. So that was
Yeah.
great.
Well, and like you said, I mean, I think it's one of those things. It's like a study abroad on steroids, where like you
Yeah.
are you are the only group of people who knows what that was like. So to be able
Yes.
to maintain those friendships is, that's I think that's one of the best parts of life, and that's sort of a microcosm of the car community because you don't have to explain it. You kind of just go like, you remember the thing with the, and you're like, you're all there.
Yeah, yeah, and still, like, there are several group chats with various members of the crew, and we'll pop up from time to time when the memory happens, or
Yeah.
shoot stuff on Instagram, or yeah, it's just nice to have those, and to have those relationships kind of blossom beyond the show. And again, Ryan, I think that's more of a world philosophical answer, as
Yeah,
opposed
no,
to
it's a
like,
great answer.
like, oh, we had the Vector, that was awesome. Um,
But again, it transcends the cars, right? That's what
yeah,
it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, we keep like unintentionally that's the theme, right? But I think that has been all of our experience in the car world too. So it's like that's a natural progression in the conversation.
yeah, yeah. Does that answer your question, or do you have
It does,
more
and
top tier questions?
I am not asking any more questions. I realize I've kind of taken over the
What?
question asking. So, Lindsay, I'll hand the
Oh,
baton to you. Sorry, it's
But you have such good questions. I mean, do you, yeah, what else do you have? I mean, you've
well,
had,
and I know we don't have a whole lot of time here, but I know you're a big movie guy, film guy. Obviously, you're involved in production and directing and writing and everything else. As far as mainstream movies go, is there one that you think really got the car casting right? Because I think that's such an essential part when they,
Derek, I'll
even
take
when they
this
get it
one.
wrong, you notice, but sometimes they really get it right.
I can take this one. It's
Oh, okay.
obviously Gremlins 1. And now Derek will
But
give
is
the
there a
voice.
G body?
probably. We'll go on
10 or
IMDb and
12.
check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Billy's mom drives a Pontiac G-Body wagon, maybe.
Huh.
In
One of
terms
her
of car
kids came home
casting,
with a rabbit or something.
I'm gonna give you a left field,
Please.
and there are two, and they're both animated. And I am not a fan of animation normally.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I'll say three. The third one is you'll get it when I say it. The first one is an animated French movie called Triplets of Belleville,
Uh,
and there's a Citroën DS that's driven by the bad guys, and they chase this bicyclist around
yeah, yeah.
France, and whenever it comes to a stop, it just goes because of
That's
the
great.
the
Yeah,
hydropneumatic
yeah,
suspension.
yeah. That's
And
great.
it's just
Revisit
it's
that.
so genius, so
Yeah.
genius, and it never gets old. And then the other one is the Audi A4 2.8 in Miyazaki's Spirited Away. And it's
Oh,
not so much the accuracy of the drawing, which is, yeah, it's a B5. And I think it's the facelifted one. So it's got the
I own
tail
that
lights.
car, so I've got to check this
Yeah,
out. Yeah.
yeah. Um, And did you have the 1.8 or the 2.8?
No, I had the 2.8, the
Okay.
facelift, and it was the 5-speed.
Okay, cool. Good, because that's what this car was.
Awesome.
And what I love about it is that they got the Foley right. They got the sound design right. And so when it is driving through frame, you hear that 2.8
No
and
kidding.
you know the sound of
five
that
valve.
car.
Yeah.
That 5-valve, like in second gear, I always thought that I was Marty McFly in the DeLorean because it had the same second gear whine, or at least
Amazing.
the whine that it had in Back to the Future. But
Right.
the sound of this A4 2.8 in Spirited Away is
that's great.
it's accurate. It's because you've all seen those movies where like, you know, an Audi RS6 starts up, but it's a Ford 302 starter.
Right.
Or they lock it and it's the sound of a Toyota or a BMW, and you're like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're
It's not hard, people.
It's really not. It's not hard, you guys.
No.
It's just not.
It's the name right on the car. It's right there.
I'll leave the the other answers for other people because I love that. The third one is Archer. And especially I think it's season 2 or 3 when he gets it looks like a 68 or 69 Dodge Charger, and he's just like ripping through the streets. But anytime you pause it and look at the cars in Archer on the street, it's almost as good as Grand Theft Auto, where you see it looks like a Lincoln Mark IV, but it's not really a Lincoln Mark IV. He's driving a Charger, but it's not really a Charger.
Yeah.
But
So it's like Cars 1 and 2, where you're like, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're drawn in a way that it's clear that whoever was drawing them knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like
That's a fun Easter egg.
It's not just a car. It's like a Lincoln Mark IV. It's a Dodge Charger. It's or like in Grand Theft Auto when it's like almost a Grand National or almost a Crown Vic.
Yeah.
They're like, we couldn't get the copyright, but you guys know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, those are great answers. I know that we're running short on time. And Lindsay, if you've got anything else, please, now's the time.
I mean, I feel like we could probably talk for like 6
Yeah, I know.
Hours.
Well, you'll come back soon because this has been an absolute pleasure.
I have a really quick one, Derek, if you have a minute.
Yeah.
Or 5. So
sure. I have 10.
Okay, perfect. So I got to go off-roading at the Quail over the weekend with Land Rover. See, there we go. Yeah. And you
didn't send pictures?
I did send a couple to Derek.
Yep. And video.
And video. Yeah. So one of the funniest parts about when I sent you the videos, and our friend Steph Kowal was there, which was amazing. We were just missing our Derek Powell. But when I sent Derek one of the videos, he immediately wrote me back, Daphne, because one of the coaches is Daphne Green. And so I wondered if you could share a little bit about her background, because I think you know more than I do. I know she did the Camel Trophy for years and years. Wow. She's this like pint-sized badass.
Legend.
But, like legend, most delightful woman. I mean, I was like, I just want to put her in my pocket or my purse and just like.
You could off-road anywhere.
Right? Like,
Sinway,
what do we do now?
Again, it goes back to Sinway. He introduced me to her almost 10 years ago. And Daphne is responsible for, if you go to an OHV course in California, chances are she's designed it. Not only had a hand in it, but designed it. And again, like when you meet her in person, she's just very humble and down to earth. Yeah. But just has such an intuitive sense of driving off road, and you can tell with her hand gestures, right? It's just like, even if you don't know what the hand gestures are for stuff for off-roading, like when you're coming down that rock wall or that rock staircase, or if you're trying to get the fulcrum and have it go from this to this
safely, right? So Ryan, you're on 3 wheels and the front left wheel is completely in the air, 3 feet, and she's guiding you to bring it forward so that the car will gently settle without tipping too much.
Right.
And so you get a sense for the car and the capability, but Right, like what Derek is saying, because she guided me on the fulcrum part. So you're sitting in the air, and she, yeah, that was my first experience of having someone outside the car.
Yeah.
And I talked to her later and I said, okay, your facial expression,
Ah,
like, tell me what that was, because we were too far away to be communicating verbally. So everything was nonverbal. And they talk about that before we start. They said, when you have a team and you learn the rhythm, and Daphne and her Camel Trophy teammate obviously had their own very successful rhythm that they developed over years and years. But she truly just is, you talk about nature versus nurture. Like, this is her nature. She is exactly where she should be as an off-road coach and instructor, because without a word, it's like everything got quiet and super calm. Like, we're just going to do this. No big deal. But, it's almost magnetic. And she just has this very easy sense, and you just do what she says and everything is fine.
well, some people are just born to do a role, right?
Yeah.
Much like our friend Derek here, right? I mean, you were born to do what you're doing.
Yeah. Which is, I haven't figured that out yet, but
Right. And get back to us when you have the answer. And
I will work on that.
yeah. But
Derek,
yeah,
what do
Daphne-
you have going on? Like, what's in the works? Where do we find you? All that good stuff.
In terms of what I have going on, I've got a couple of projects that I'm writing right now. I actually might be in Denver, and I'll look you up.
Please do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got some feature projects in the works, which I'm very excited about. Few TV shows that, in this industry, it's like you're constantly pitching, and one day one hits. I do have some fun stuff to announce later this summer, which will be
Okay.
really
Yeah.
Come
great.
back.
Well, hopefully
Yeah,
you'll come back.
yeah, and yeah, in the meantime, it's just without getting too specific, it's like it's nice to have that moment where everything coalesces and comes together, where everything that you've worked on for 20 years and you don't know it's leading up to certain things.
Right.
But it comes together. Top Gear was like that. Like my experience in the production world intersected with my love of cars. And even though I didn't know anybody on set first day, it was just like fell into that rhythm
Yeah.
almost immediately. And are you asking where you can find me on social media? Was that
If you're into that kind
yeah.
of thing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still out there. I don't post much, but you can find me on Instagram at Derek Lane Powell, on Facebook, if anybody still goes there, and I'm going to say Twitter because to me it's always Twitter,
Forever
and
Twitter.
it's just at Derek Powell,
Cool.
and
Cool.
very easy to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter corrected me the other day. I said Twitter, and she goes, "You mean X?" And it took me a second to even understand what she was. I'm like, "No, Twitter." Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But for those of us old guard, it's always Twitter,
The
right?
things we've
Always.
lost. Yeah,
I refuse to update the app on my phone.
Oh.
I actually disabled automatic updates because I still have the bird on my phone, and it's going to
that's
stay that
excellent.
way as long as I can have it.
Yeah.
Until someone gets wise and disables that app, I'm going to run it into the ground.
Tweet, motherfuckers. Yeah.
Tweet, motherfuckers.
Derek, what a pleasure. Talk to you all night. I hope you will come
Yeah.
back soon. So
I would love that. I had such a blast. Thank you so much for having me on.
thanks
This
so
was
much.
super fun. Any time with Derek Powell is a good time.
Yay!
Thanks again.
And always be driving. We're That Car Show. See you next week.